Welcome to the Au Jus. I'm your host, Beef Loaf. This show is being sponsored by our friends, Punky's Pizza and Pasta, located at 2600 South Walls. My personal favorite eatery in the neighborhood. They have the best selections of pizzas and pastas, as well as sandwiches and salads of any spot in Bridgeport. Currently, they have a terrific Monday Night's Only special. One medium cheese pizza for $12.99. No promo codes, no minimums. Just place the order after 3 p.m. You get one medium cheese pizza for $12.99. Toppings can be added, but for the normal prices. Hit the website, punkyspizza.com, for all your carryout or delivery needs, or to cater your next party. Or call 312-842-2100. The Scarlotta family will take care of you. Punky's Pizza and Pasta. This show is also powered by you, the Loyal 108 supporter. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to tickle the undercarriage in the process. Like, comment, turn on notifications, and most definitely super chat, because that's how we get paid, and it's how we continue to make the content you know and love. Tonight's guest is unfortunately just me.
Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. That's where we're at with this one. We'll resume guests next week, and I have a great guest next week and a great guest coming the week after. So we'll get to that then. Tonight will be a shorty, unless you guys have some super chats. Remember the rule: Beef Loaf solo show super chats. I will answer any goddamn motherfucking question you guys want. So throw those in there if you will. If not, then it'll be a shorter show. I do have a handful of topics though. I want to lament with you guys, not only, little things that I'm observing and to test some stats, which you might not trust stats at this point. I don't know if I entirely trust much stats at this point in the year, but you observe things as you're watching this team and you want to dig in a little bit and see how it's going. And then also to vent my frustrations on a couple of things going with the White Sox right now. I think the White Sox being 2-7, I don't think we were like going into the season, we thought it was going to be much better than that. But then you saw a tremendous win in the opening game. And then you saw in the Monday game, the day game against Minnesota, they beat the shit out of the Twins. And so you're like, well, the offense woke up or whatever. But realistically, I don't think we, as a group, were thinking they'd be a lot better than this 2-7 that they are. But the way we've gotten there is kind of frustrating. Let me get to a couple drinks here. Trey says, cheers, this drink's for Jacob. That's my shortstop you're talking about there, Trey. Thank you, my friend. And another one from Trey. It says, here's a question. What is Getz & Co. good at? Well, we're going to get to a couple of those things very shortly. There are topics that we've got today, and there is one thing at least that it looks like they are, maybe two things that they are honing in on and improving on and becoming better at. It's not talent procurement just yet, but some things in and around the edges. So cheers, Trey. We'll get to those answers shortly. All right, first things up. Sunday brought back the return of Mike Tauchman. Now, Mike Tauchman is important on this season for two reasons, for me at least, with regards to the show and with regards to White Sox Twitter. Number one, I predicted that Mike Tauchman would be on this team, or that I thought he should be on this team. As soon as the Cubs non-tendered Mike Tauchman, I put it out there in the Twitterverse that there's a perfect guy the White Sox should grab for the type of team they're putting together. They're putting together a team where they're going to need some placeholders in certain spots. And you just want respectable big league production out of that person. And Tauchman's not flashy. On a really good team, he'd be a bench player more than likely. The Cubs last year ended up using him a lot. They had injuries and such, and he ended up leading off for them and playing really well. This guy gets on base, left-handed bat, really kind of helpful to the White Sox. A good situation for the White Sox. So I thought they should grab him. I put a tweet out there right away, and lo and behold, the White Sox did turn around and grab him. But number two, and more importantly, because it was hilarious on Sox Twitter, he got hurt before the season. Travis Jankowski was effectively taking his spot. He was in the spot of Mike Tauchman. Now, we had talked about it on this show. We talked about it in the stands, whatever. When Mike Tauchman's ready, Travis Jankowski is likely going to be back in the breadline. But friend of the show, friend of the 108, Sean Jankowski, vouched he was going to go out and get a Travis Jankowski jersey. And it was a race to see if the custom ordered jersey would get to the house before Travis Jankowski was put out into the street. And he cut a video. Sean Jankowski got the jersey on Friday. That was April 4th. He MF'd the Beef Loaf and said, I got it here before he get DFA'd. And then Sunday morning when we woke up, Travis Jankowski's out on the street. So he had two glorious fucking days of that jersey where he could really rub it in my face. But now it's kind of over. So cheers to my guy Sean for doing that. That's fun stuff to do in Sox Twitter. But one thing that Tauchman brings to the White Sox is someone who give you a professional at bat. And he sure as hell did that on Sunday, his first game back. Topman saw 27 pitches in 5 plate appearances. It got me thinking about the quality of plate appearances that we are seeing or not seeing from certain players, and just how at a macro level are the White Sox improving over what they had before. You brought in Ryan Fuller, and the expectation with Ryan Fuller is to put in a hitting program. So it wasn't like, oh my God, he's going to come here and he's going to do magic with these, with the replacement level junk that's on the roster, with the guys who have been struggling in a certain way over time, and suddenly make these guys world beaters. It was known that he has to go down to all the levels. And there was a lot of infrastructure that needed to be put in. There was a lot of machinery and databases and things that didn't exist for the White Sox. The White Sox didn't have a hitting program like this, and so he was going to be coming in from the ground floor. So what I wanted to see is the progress, because just to my naked eye, it seemed like there's certain guys who are taking better plate appearances than before. Maybe not everyone, but so I wanted to just check the stats. And now I don't know how much I trust these stats at this point. But I decided, okay, let's look at something called pitches per plate appearance, and that's just how many pitches a person sees. A very raw stat, but I wanted to go at the macro level first. So let's look at 2024. The White Sox were not a patient team, and I apologize, the graph's a little small. I wanted to fit the whole MLB in here so you could see this. And the spread on pitches per plate appearance is not wide, as you might imagine. It all hovers between about 3.5 and a little over 4 pitches seen per plate appearance. This is the entire 2024 season. The White Sox are all the way down at 25th. 3.82 pitches per plate appearance. Now, there is some correlation to seeing more pitches and scoring more runs, but it's not standard that is the case. Good pitch selection isn't just seeing a million pitches and fouling off a bunch of bullshit. Sometimes it's that first or second pitch and hitting it really fucking hard. And so that's not the whole thing, and that's why I wanted to look at a big macro stat like this. So you see them towards the bottom. If you look at the very bottom there, I mean, the Houston Astros are a productive offensive team. And they were at the bottom of this stat. So you look at 2025, I thought, well, the White Sox seem like they're taking more pitches. They seem like they're doing more quality at bats. So I would think they'd be higher than 3.82. And obviously these things fluctuate, right? 3.88 is the average for the league last year. So I pulled this up for 2025, and now the league average currently is 3.9. Again, these numbers will settle down as we get further away, but the sample's pretty big at this point with the amount of plate appearance and pitches that have gone through. And there are the White Sox back down there, right, hovering right around the same spot with 3.81 pitches per plate appearance. So still at a macro level, not the progress you're hoping to see. You're hoping to see, well, man, they're taking a big jump. So I thought, well, wait a minute, let's just dig in a little bit more to the actual players. And let's just see kind of who is doing what. I'd like to look at what each guy, is putting forth, and maybe there's some improvement internally. Maybe what we'll find is that some of the outside guys they brought in do a really good job of this, and this will be a way the White Sox will turn over the team. So the graph now is up there, and this is homespun by the Beefle. I looked up these individually. Is a look at the 2025 versus 2024. Now I only did same store for people who were here in 2024. So the new additions are all in blue. You see Tachman at the top with a crazy number because he only had one game and it was he saw a million fucking pitches. No big deal. But you have Miguel Vargas up there. And Miguel was already a patient hitter. I plucked his 2024 numbers for the whole year. I think he was probably a little less patient when he was with the White Sox and that horrible stint and go down the line. But a lot of the guys kind of hovering towards the top there, that's those are internal. Matt Theis is not. He's from outside. But you see a large jump for Brooks Baldwin, right? Almost a 3/4 of a pitch more, or more than 3/4. Yeah, no, almost 3/4 of a pitch more per game in 2025 versus 2024. Is that real growth? I don't know. It's not a lot of plate appearances, but that sure looks promising. Andrew Vaughn about 1/4 of a pitch more. So that's pretty good. Both of those are above the team's average there. Now, Vaughn hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire yet. Now, he only has one walk. So even seeing all these extra pitches, it's not turning into anything at this fucking point. But, nothing wrong with looking at a chart like this and seeing some growth. Luis Robert is kind of in the same spot as last year. Now, last year, Luis had started laying off of more pitches. And we'll get to Luis later in the show. I need to get some thoughts, some feelings out there about Luis Robert. But as you look towards the bottom of the list, I mean, you have a lot. You have Austin Slater, who's normally a very patient hitter, but just been getting a lot to hit. Because last year I looked up his numbers. It wasn't with the Sox, but it was over 4 pitches per plate appearances. And then you have defense only players and hackers. Like Lenny Sosa's a hacker. He's just swinging and everything. Jacob Amaya is a defense-only player, as we'll get to him in a little bit. Travis Jankowski, the recently fade, right? So it does seem like the progress is being made, and then at some point, when you're able to hack off some of the roster here of these non-productive players, that we might have something here. We might have something going in the right direction. Now, I had written all this up. I wanted to talk about this topic. I was interested in how the White Sox were doing, and to me, it looks positive, even if the high macro number, the pitch per plate appearance, doesn't seem to have moved very much. And then this tweet was thrown out there by Jack Lambert, who is a Driveline person. He said, the tweet says, teams with above average zone and O-zone swing decisions so far, ranked by overall swing decisions. And he has number one mystery team, 2 Cubs, 3 Rays, 4 Phillies, 5 Red Sox, 6 Mariners. It turns out the mystery team, the team that's making the best swing decisions, and it says zone and O-zone. So what that means is in the zone, that's zone. O-zone means out of the zone, meaning kind of laying off stuff. And in the zone, swinging at things that are in the zone, is the White Sox, it turns out. So the White Sox, when you dig deeper on these direct decisions, seem to be taking advantage of all this new coaching and new technology that the Ryan Fuller hitting regime is bringing through. So as much as a shitty last 9 games it's been, team that's 2-7, it seems like there is a little something to build off of here. There is a little something when the team manages to, acquire enough talent for this to be meaningful, that it will result in something. You're seeing it little by little. You're not seeing it, and you're seeing a team that's struggled mightily against right-handed pitching so far, but they have had a few outbursts. They have beat up a pitcher or two when they're having a bad game, and that's, you kind of want to see it. It's a little bit of growth. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but to me, it was interesting. Thought I would bring that all to you guys. Let's get to this question from Aloha Mr. Haney. Says, what's your prediction for Teal's arrival date? After he went gangbusters the first week, everyone was calling for him to be promoted, but I was looking through some stats last night, and it seems like there's his second week maybe not as good, Mr. Hand. He now has 12 strikeouts and 40 plate appearances, so that's a 30% K rate in the minors, and Edgar Carroll's actually hitting better than Kyle Teal is right now. Truthfully, though, the 2 catchers the White Sox have are playing well, so I wouldn't rush it. If they think there's still some things for a Kyle Teal to work on, I would be fine keeping him down there. I think this White Sox team eventually ends up with 3 catchers on the roster kind of almost the entire year. They have 1 option year with Corey Lee, so they could sneak him down and make it Theis, Caro, and Teal, but we'll see what happens. I will say we won't see either of the young catchers, barring injury. Obviously, this is just like natural maturation. I say we won't see them till close to the trade deadline. That'll be my guess. I'll say like July is when we start seeing them up there. I don't think they're going to rush either of them up there. I don't think there's going to be. They're both playing well, but I don't see it at this point. All right, next up, and this is really frustrating me, and I know he's got a lot of fans, and I'm a fan too of Brian Bannister. Brian Bannister's bullpens, the bullpen debacle yesterday, brutal, unwatchable, disgusting. Like one of those games where you felt it in the pit of your stomach. This is starting to go wrong, and it went wrong. And every White Sox fan was looking at that shit, thinking to themselves, "This is definitely how we're going to lose this game." In a predictable way, they lost the game. And so Brian Bannister, I put him in. Obviously, Chris Getz is in charge of the whole operation, right? So it's inevitably Getz's fault. But Bannister's on top of the pitching part, right? He's like the CEO of pitching, whatever the fuck. That's what I would call him. His bullpens last year, he tried to build a bullpen of mismatched parts, and we'll try this guy from this delivery angle, and this guy does this thing, and here's this funny tweak that this guy does, and that was a tire fire. That was a horrible bullpen, at least the first 5 months of the season. By September, they cleared off a lot of that stuff, and they were using waiver bait, and they were okay. Now, they played some teams that weren't very good in September, and so maybe a lot of it was that. And so this year, they went back to the drawing board, but they went in an even cheaper avenue of doing it. They didn't sign $5.5 million of John Brebbia or anything like that, or $4 million of Tim Hill or whoever else, and really went with a lot of trades, guys who were DFA'd, just kind of like stuff that they could get incredibly cheap. And although the results so far, like on a statistical standpoint for the bullpen, has actually been middle of the road. They're actually an average-ish bullpen by a lot of measures. In leverage, they are getting absolutely crushed. There's something called WPA that's that basically measures the the leverage of these bullpen arms, right? It's a wins added stat. And the White Sox are worst in this by a fucking mile. And actually second worst is the Cubs. So I know they're having a tough problems in leverage here. And the deal here with the White Sox bullpen is less about any of these individual guys and more about that they're not built with that fire-breathing 99-mile-an-hour fastball, ridiculous slider guys at the back end. And that's how mostly every other bullpen is built. I did a little analysis before the season, who would get the saves for the White Sox. And materially, most teams are leaning on guys, big fastball and ridiculous exploding slider to be their save catcher at the end. The White Sox just don't even have that guy in the mix here at all. And now they built a bullpen where it's very flexible. They can option guys up and down. And I'm not, at this point, I don't think any of these guys in bullpen have even thrown 6 innings yet. So I'm not ready to give up on an individual person in the bullpen, though some of them look shakier than others. But the whole build of the thing is the problem. It's more of like the brainchild, and it didn't work here. And we did a playback on Saturday, myself, Josh Nelson from Sox Machine, and Trees E. We're doing playbacks kind of regularly now. We're going to do one on Wednesday. Well, I'll promote that at the end of the show. But I brought this point up to these guys, and James Fegan, the beat reporter for Sox Machine, happened to be in the comments. He was in the press box in Detroit, and he mentioned, well, they don't want to do it this way. They would love to have those fire breathing monsters at the end, and it's like they didn't spend any money in the bullpen. And I get that. If the idea is, well, we're not going to put $8 or $10 million to this, we're going to put $8 or $10 million to the infrastructure over here, which we desperately fucking need. The hitting program. We're gonna build that Dominican Academy. I get that. The owner's not loosening the purse strings on this stuff. He says, you pick this or that. I get picking those things instead. But the other teams don't always just fucking buy $12, $15 million arms. They get their fire-breathing fucking arms out of nowhere too. And I think it's the search that has been a little flawed from Bannister's standpoint. They haven't really brought in those guys, the failed big, scary monsters that, can you get this guy to throw strikes? I remember back in the day, the Sox would always do that. And they'd bring in guys like Mike McDougal, and it wouldn't fucking work. It'd suck. But occasionally, you bring in Thornton, and it would work. And it would be terrific. And so I'm not saying that, it's everything about what he's doing with the bullpen is fun. But the part with the non-high leverage guys, you don't have the Michael Kopech. And as frustrating as he was back there, at least he could strike out the side and get out of a situation. Yesterday, when you saw that 9th inning, and you saw that starting to unravel right there with the walks, and when Jordan Leisure came in, I thought, and then the first batter, it's like, okay, you just have to get to outs here. You're down 3-1. He couldn't throw a strike. I'm like, he's got no put-away pitch. And then when he got to the point where he had 2 strikes, he couldn't get rid of the guy. He could not finish the guy off. And as much as people in the White Sox like him, he's just not one of those killers. He ain't one of them killers, all right? He's a 7th inning guy or something like that. He don't need to be at the back of the bullpen. And so the leverage with this team, their inability to get those guys out at the end is a huge problem. Now, one of the constructs here, and in a way I don't blame them, is they're carrying 2 Rule 5 guys. You have to remember that, right? They're carrying Mike Vassell, they picked up kind of right at the end of spring training as he was getting let go. He was getting returned, I believe. And so they were able to grab him up. And then obviously have Shane Smith, who ends up in the rotation. But you weren't sure he was going to be in the rotation. So you had Bryce Wilson here. So you have 2 long men, basically. And it's a consequence of 2 Rule 5 guys. Now, the Sox are in accumulation mode. So I agree with the 2 Rule 5 guys being in there, and I get that. But it makes it a tougher build. You're missing one more of those righties that should be able to throw hard and throw a slider and get on these fucking innings. And so I just think that right now, the construct is poor. I think the White Sox in the offseason, I don't care get 5 failed versions of those guys and bring them in for spring training and see if you can get one of them to throw strikes, get one of them to come out of it, because you need more of those guys to back end. These guys they just have to be too fine with the command, too fine with the control to get out of these things. They don't have the guy who can go 99 at the top of the zone and just strike a guy out. Frazier Allard looked a little bit like that. He'd done a nice job when he came in there, and Cam Boozer has been pitching much better, but no, it's just not enough. We don't have enough here with all that stuff. And now I also thought about this, and what you're going to start seeing, I've started seeing already, is people are going to throw Will Venable under the bus. But watching the game on Sunday, I didn't have a problem with any of Will Venable's moves. Those are just the guys you got. This is all you have. And we're going to revert back to everyone was mad at Ricky Renteria in game 3 in Oakland. But to me, it's a similar thing. If you press all the right buttons and you try to put all the fires out, and these guys just can't get the outs, it is what it is. And so I expect him to catch a lot of heat over the next 6 months because of the poor construct of this bullpen, unless they figure something out, unless they go down to the minors and grab somebody and bring someone up and people become incredibly effective. And that's how good bullpens are born. Guys throw zeros for 6 months, and the White Sox don't have any of those guys out of this group yet. We're going to still look at them a little bit. There is some guys pitching well in Charlotte. Addison Coffey's got 11 Ks and one walk and 5 1/3. Steven Wilson's got 7 Ks and 1 walk in 3 innings. I mean, there's some guys pitching well down there, but I think we're not at the point yet where they're going to start giving up on guys. So we'll see. I expect a lot of up and down movement with this group, though. This bullpen is struggling at this point. So let me get to this super chat from Eric. Eric says, if Colson stays this bad, do you think the Sox ever say F it and call him up anyways? If so, when do you think that happens? Yeah, I mean, I think they're desperate. They would love to call him up. I don't think they want the answer to be Jacob Amaya at shortstop, and they definitely don't think Brooks Baldwin is the shortstop of the future. They think it's Colson. They'd like it to be Colson. And then the injury derails, and then he's horrible to start the year in AAA. And, there's nothing to do here. I don't think if he stays awful, no. But I think they'll find a hot spot in there, a streak where he's playing well, and decide to bring him up. I think that kind of will end up. I think it'll end up happening fairly soon. I mean, assuming he can have a good streak, if he can get string together 3 weeks in a row where he hits the hell out of the ball and it looks like the guy you want, I think you're probably going to see him. I think as much as they like the glove of Jacob Amaya, they know he's an absolute zero at the plate, and it's tough having that in there, especially with this bad an offense. So thank you, Eric, for the question. Appreciate you. I got a little high noon in my eye. All right. Next up, one thing that I've been noticing about the White Sox, and then this is going to bring up the much maligned Jacob Amaya. I see more Jacob Amaya hate on Twitter than any White Sox player, which is absurd to me. The guy is, what the guy is. He's a bottom of the 40-man type of guy. He's playing a good shortstop for you. That's all he can really do. He's not much of anything else. But I kind of noticed the White Sox look more organized. They do less dumb shit on defense, is my observation. They look like they're more put together. I think it was on Friday, Jonathan Cannon backed up a play behind home plate. There was a throw home, was an overthrow, and Johnny Cannon backed it up beautifully, picked it, was ready to fire. And I was like, the 2024 White Sox don't do that. And even the era of good White Sox, fat-ass Lance Lynn ain't getting all the way the fuck back there to back that up. And so I was like, wow, this is good. They at least seem organized and understand what the hell they're doing here. So I wanted to take a look at the defense a little bit. And I'm going to pull up a stat from Baseball Reference called defensive efficiency. And all this really is like turning batted balls into outs. Okay, so this is not a real advanced stat or anything like that. This is just kind of a very raw thing. So there can be luck in here too. Could have BABIP luck. Maybe the ball's just getting hit right at you, that sort of thing. But the White Sox, at this point in the season, are 8th in this stat. 0.726. So 73% of the balls are finding someone's hands and turning into outs. And that's a good thing. That's a much better thing than 2024, which I'll pull up right now. And sorry for the graphic there, where the White Sox are 25th at 0.685. So what's happening here with the defense does actually look better, surprisingly. Not that there's there's not. It's good to have a good defense. It's not turning them into wins, anything like that. But who is really showing a difference out there? For me, so far, it's been having a strong defensive outfield nearly all the time. You've had the weak link and Andrew Benintendi out there, and they've snuck a couple innings of Brooks Baldwin in right field, and I think he's okay. He's athletic enough. I think the throwing arm might not be there for a right fielder, but he seems to make the plays. He seems to have understanding what he should be doing out there. But for the most part, you've had a strong-ass outfield. You've had Luis in center a lot of the times, Michael A. Taylor. You've had Travis Jankowski. You've had Austin Slater. Now you're going to have Mike Tauchman, who's a solid right fielder out there. And so that defense is so much stronger, especially with Benintendi out of the lineup and DHing. than the lineups you had in the past where you were trying to pass off Andrew Vaughn as a left fielder, or even as recently as last year, trying to pass off Gavin Sheets out in right field. And, and having Luis back in there is huge too. I mean, the games where you had Tommy Pham in center field last year that's just tough to watch. And so I think they're solider because they have a better build. But surprisingly to me, Miguel Vargas looks really good at third base. I'm shocked as shit that he's playing that well and playing good at third base. And so something to look forward to. My much maligned guy, Jacob Maya, he's an above average shortstop. That's what he is. All right. That's why they're keeping him there and letting him play defense and hopefully helping these pitchers a little bit. But the surprise to me is Ben Vargas. Vargas has looked much better at third than he looked last year. And even in spring training, he looked like shit. I was like, this guy is horrible. Well, I don't know how they're going to let him keep third. Hopefully hits enough to play first. And then he's come out and he's looked much better. So hopefully the small sample size of this defense looking organized and possibly positioned better, because we're not seeing so many running spectacular plays. We're seeing they're just catching the balls that are hit to them. And so that's a good thing. That, Trey, is a thing that I think the White Sox are doing well right now, is they're aligning their defense and putting a good defense out there. And some of the credit has to go to Walker McKinnon. He's the bench coach. I mentioned on the one-way podcast, only 9 fingers. He's a 9-finger man. But he's the guy behind the guy. He's the guy who sets all this stuff up. He's the guy who keeps the team organized. He does game planning, defensive positioning, all that stuff. And that part of the game on the defensive side has looked good. It's looked major league quality. They don't have the offense to back it up. They don't have the fire-breathing bullpen to back it up at this point. But at some point, hopefully they will, and then it'll end up making a large difference. So anyway, one last topic. If you guys have any super chats, you want to ask any questions or contribute here, by all means, go for it. Last thing is Luis Robert Jr. Is Luis Robert Jr. ever going to get back on fucking track? As much as I am a very patient man in general, Luis Robert Jr. is pissing me off so far this season. He's the only guy on this roster who I'm really actually kind of pissed at. And truth be told, I don't think it's an effort thing. I see people on Twitter, he's lazy, he doesn't care, blah, blah, blah. I'm not seeing that at all. I've never seen that from Luis. Luis generally played hard. I think he got in trouble one time in the Pedro Grifol era for not running hard on a ball to first. But generally, he does run hard. He does play hard. And even when he sucked last year, he had 20 stolen bases in the second half. Like, he was still doing stuff. He was still making diving catches in the outfield and playing well. The problem is he's continuing to not grasp the balance between laying off pitches that are bad for him, but staying ready enough to smash the pitches that he needs to that are in the zone. But even though he's started off horribly, and I think his WRC plus like 15 right now, the heat map on Baseball Savant I put up there right now, the bat speed and the barrel percentage are high. Sprint speed up there. His arm, he still throws the ball well. He's good on defense, that sort of thing. And although he's walking 11% of the time, which is like out of this world for Luis Robert, he's just not putting it all together. Not the almost 31% strikeouts is just way too much, right? A 25% strikeout Luis maybe can end up doing it. But what he's doing too is he's getting himself out too often. Although he's hit the barrels, he has the bat speed or whatever, he has a lot of balls that are softly hit as well because he's making mistakes swinging at pitches that he shouldn't. And so it's a bit of a problem with Luis. And now we haven't seen Luis making those sliding, diving catches. I think maybe it's just the defense being better aligned or whatever. And so we're not getting that wow factor from Luis either. But bottom line is he's pissing me off at this point. And like, he's the most important thing here. I got my Luis chain on for good luck. Always do it in these shows because he's going to get traded at some point. And either they're going to have to take a crappy return for him at the trade deadline, or they're going to get a good one because he bounces back and becomes the player we all think that he can be. And so I'm struggling right now with him. Every time he comes to the plate, I feel the pressure on Luis Robert when he's up there batting like, you better fucking do something. And he had the bases loaded and nobody out in Detroit, and he swings at a bad pitch and grounds into a double play. And so, yeah, run scored, but so what? That's the type of spot he really needs to do damage, and he's just not doing the damage. I'm glad he's taking his walks, but here's what I need, Luis. I need a couple of fucking rockets out of the stadium, 425 feet, to show us that you're back. I know he's always going to be a streaky player, and I'm conditioned to deal with the streaks, but because of how bad last season was, I don't have the faith in him that I normally have that he's going to bounce back. So what would help me is if he went to Cleveland and hit a couple home runs in that series. It would really help me think better about Luis. But a lot of the season is just about what you can get for Luis Robert and continuing to build the infrastructure of all the stuff we've been talking about here. So that's basically it. I think it's time to get going. This has been too much already. I appreciate all of you guys up in the comments there. Thank you for being around and joining in. Couple things before I go. Well, we're working on doing these playbacks. I think I mentioned with Josh Nelson, Sox Machine Crew. Those are live streams where we talk over the game. So if you want to check those out, I think in order to watch the stream along with us, you have to have an MLB.TV account, like a paid account there. If you don't, you can still watch the us fucking around and put the White Sox game on a different screen. And so you could be part of the conversation there. Very lively chat. We do go off page a little bit. I get the nerds from Sox Machine to go off page and talk about some regular stuff during the show. Treasy and I are making it a point to do that this year. And it's always a fun time to just hang out with people and watch the game and enjoy the game together. So come through with us and check that one out. We'll be promoting it, but the next one is going to be Wednesday at 5:10. That's going to be White Sox at Cleveland. So that should be a lot of fun. Next week's guest, the aforementioned, I'm going to have Sox Optimist on here for the first time. Optimist is going to join me. We're going to talk about a myriad of Sox topics, but also I want to find out why his daily voting videos on 108 Tourney became so popular. And truth be told, I think I didn't realize this, but the ladies really like Sox Optimist. They're looking for the thirst trap. So I may ask him about that too. How he feels, being a sex symbol in Sox Twitter. And so we'll have him on next Monday. In 2 Mondays, and I haven't tweeted this yet, I'm going to have Ryan McGuffey on. Guff's going to come on. We'll chop it up a little bit, talk some White Sox. So it'll be my first time having him on here as well. So we're going to brandish this thing with some new guests. We're going to make the LSU a lot of fun for you and me. So I think that's about it. Thanks to Punky's Pizza and Pasta and all the 108 fans up in the YouTube comments. Appreciate all of you. Smash the like button. Of course, the drinks and tips. We'll see you Wednesday for the playback. Make sure you come to that. And then I'll see all of you Thursday for the 108 podcast. I love all of you, and bye-bye.